This is the Mobile Tech Podcast, brought to you by worldpodcasts.com. Now here's your host, Tech Girl, Miriam Joie.
Brought to you by Mint Mobile. Stay tuned for a special offer at the end of the show. Hi, and welcome to the Mobile Tech Podcast. I'm your host, Miriam Joie, and today is Friday, February 21st, 2025. And I have the awesome Becca with me. Hi, Becca. How are you?
Hello. Stoked to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being my guest. This is pretty awesome. Yeah. I have you on because I want to nerd out with you about cameras, obviously. I mean, you know, as a mobile camera nerd,
yes.
Mobile photography, you do a lot of it. I do a lot of it. So
we do a lot of it together. Yes.
Yes. So there's a lot of stuff going on right now in the news related to cameras. We got some new phones. We have some phones with some questionable camera decisions we just talk about. And then I want to pick your brain about Osmo because you did a great video on that. I know you also do 1,000 photos with a phone videos. And definitely if folks, you don't know, you need to check those out. Like if you are a camera phone nerd, Becca takes 1,000 photos with each camera phone she reviews. And that's a big deal.
Yeah.
So big fan of that.
At times it is painful. So yes,
I don't know how you do it.
Video.
Having done camera reviews for years, it's like, holy crap, that's a lot of work.
Yeah, well, I was just so sick of folks like reviewing phones and taking 5 photos with the cameras and then coming to conclusions. There's just no way to come to a conclusion about a camera without taking many, many photos in many different situations. So I was like, I'm going to take 1,000 photos. I just set that number. And the first time I did it, it was hellish. It still can be hellish. I've gotten better at knowing that, okay, I just have to go do a lot of things and then naturally I'll be taking a lot of photos and then I'm not thinking as much about reaching 1,000. But yeah, the first time I did it, I was like, what did I sign myself up for? But then folks really liked it. So I kept doing it and here we are today.
It's fantastic. Honestly, I don't know how you do it because like just the thought of it just kind of like makes me cringe. It's so much work.
Again, you just have to go find things that you want to take photos of, and then it's easy because then
that's the thing though. But that's the it's like the getting started part of it. It's like, and I think that's a lot of us as creators the hurdle I run into. It's like I have to write a review. Great, now I need to start it. Well, once I start, it's fine. But it's the like that hurdle of getting started. Like if I have a day where I'm in a mood to take photos and I go on this photo walk and I will take 1,000 photos and it flows and it's easy. But then there are days I'm like, the creative juices just aren't there. Everything I see around me is not worthy of my photos. You know what I'm saying? Have you had those days you're walking around the neighborhood and you're like, nothing. No, this is not good. I don't like this. I don't like the framing of this. I don't like the lighting of this. And you get upset about it.
100%. But I think having self-awareness to say, I'm not having fun right now, so I'm not going to want to do my job. And then having enough self-awareness to say, let me go somewhere else. Let me go try something different is what it takes to get over that hump for me. But you're right. I had this writing teacher. I went to film school and I had to take like a scripting class. And his big thing was like, you just have to face the page. Like you just have to get going. Yeah. And then once you're 10 photos in, 100 photos in, 250 photos in, once I pass that 500 photo mark, I'm like, all right, now I'm good.
Yeah. You're cruising at that point and it's great.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about these topics. So I want to start with the iPhone simply so we can get it out of the way in a way, because my audience is mostly an audience of Android users. I'm an Android user. I have an iPhone. Yeah. I love an iPhone. You love an iPhone. Video on the iPhone is still so great, right?
The tops.
And the camera is still so good for stills as well. But my audience actually turns out that they are mostly listening with iPhones. It's very strange. This is more of a Android nerdy kind of podcast. Yet if I look at my stats on my podcast downloads on Simplecast, you guys are all listening on iPhone. So I think a lot of you are in the same boat as a lot of journalists I know, where your families are heavily invested in the Apple ecosystem and you're using iPhones as your primary devices because you need access to messages or whatever it might need, FaceTime, and you're kind of locked in there. And so you just go out and listen on the go in the car to your podcast, whatever it might be on the train. And you have your iPhone. So there you go. But it's fascinating. So because of that, I'm actually excited about the 16E for a number of things.
Okay.
But I'm also kind of like meh about other things. Like the price is a little too high, is what I would start with. But that's
100% too
Apple,
high.
right? So of course. What are your thoughts on the price?
But no, it didn't used to be this. The SE line was never this expensive.
But
So it's not just Apple.
I think the problem is that maybe we should be looking at this as an SE successor. And I think in that context, but I think $499 would totally nail it for me on this phone. Like I think that knowing the history of Apple, including if you want to call it the Apple tax, including the history of the SE and the current lineup, I think $499 killer price for this thing. $599, it's getting hard to justify. And I think a lot of it is kind of emotional, like gut feeling, right? You're looking at it, you're like, oh, it's over $500. No, you know?
Yeah.
But at the same time, if you look at some of the things like A18 chip, that camera, even though it's a single camera, is essentially the same camera as a 16, right? Like that's pretty amazing.
Yeah, great camera, but it's only one camera.
Well,
no MagSafe.
That's one of the things I want to talk with you about.
Yeah.
But I think the other thing is no MagSafe. What?
Yeah.
Like that I thought was going to be a given. I thought that the SE was going to be the last iPhone without MagSafe. How did they, like, why, how, we will never know. And it just...
Well, it's kind of shocking, too, because the amount of accessories that they have for MagSafe, it just feels like a no-brainer to include it, because then you'd sell accessories, right?
Yeah. I don't understand it. I don't think it's a technical thing. I really don't. Some people thought with a new modem, which we'll talk about in a second. But I thought, no, I think this is more to do with they want to differentiate, but I don't get why. Like the camera, I kind of get it. Even though I don't think it's right. Because if you put an ultra wide, right, now you have an iPhone 16, right? Like,
true.
And it's like an Apple, like we have to stop thinking in Android terms when you look at iPhones. This is the thing you have to understand. Like, okay, you know, everybody's freaking out right now. Half of my audience is freaking out right now about like no 120 hertz, no ultra wide camera, you know, no MagSafe is a fair freak out. But they're not looking at historically where an iPhone is like. The 16 still has 60 hertz, like, you know, refresh.
Yeah. Yeah, true.
The ultra wide on the 16 is only 12 megapixels. So, like,
yeah, but you have it.
Yeah, you have it. So here's what I think. I want to ask you a question. And this is related to the Air as well, the iPhone Air. It supposedly has only one.
Supposed Air. Yeah.
So here's my question to you. Yeah, supposed Air. Do you think they're going to do an ultra wide main camera with a large sensor and sensor crop optical zoom, like 108 or 200, where they can do like 4:1 pixel binning and then, you know, 16:1 pixel binning so that they can have like 0.5 is the default optical, 1x is 2x crop, 2x is 4x crop. Like that's kind of what I would do if I was going to make a single camera super thin phone and I was trying to innovate. So
yeah, but
I don't think so, right?
No, I mean clearly, like if on this camera or if on the 16E they just chose to go with the main sensor, no ultra wide, I feel like they would continue that language because the ultra wide is actually not used all that often, and I think that they would just go with a single camera at that point and just make it like the beefiest, best main camera that they could, something standard.
Yeah. But you see where I'm coming from, right? If you start at 0.5 and you use
logically, that's awesome.
Right?
But in practice, I feel like they would have a hard time selling the public on your main camera is an ultra wide. I feel like that would be, it wouldn't compute for people.
You know, we would know, but the average person wouldn't know. They just see 0.5, 1, 2, and, you know, maybe 5, and the 5 uses some kind of AI zoom like the Chinese phones are doing or something. And that's kind of in my ideal world. That to me would be innovation. It would be challenging. It would be ballsy. It might not, the end result might not be, you know, I think it'd still be Apple worthy up to a point, maybe 3 or 4x. But I think that it would be interesting at least. This obviously wasn't going to happen with the 16E.
No.
But I am interested in the fact that they have at least a bigger sensor so you can do, you know, in-sensor crop at 2x, right?
Yeah. But if they were going to try something like what you're speaking about, I feel like Apple's more likely to try something like that on their Pro models. They would never take away all their lenses on a Pro model, but I feel like you'd begin to see that idea on a Pro model before you would see it anywhere else.
Because Apple's so conservative about making these changes. Yeah, you're right.
100%.
Yeah, I think so. Let's see. But anyway, so far with the 16E, there are things I love. Processor,
Yeah.
of course, the better display, the better camera. If you're looking at the fact that it's still only 60 hertz and still only a single camera sensor, that's all great. But the price, the other thing, the lack of MagSafe is the one that's really tripping me a lot. Not because I'm personally use it very much, but I think that if you're an iPhone user, that's like table stakes. I don't know.
Yep.
Right?
Well, I think that there's also an interesting idea around the size of this phone. Like the SE was always known as being small,
true.
and the Mini, which hasn't been, re-released since I think the 13. This is like a kind of a large phone. It's a 6.12 inch. Is it 6.1? 6.1.
I think 6.12. You're right, or 6.14.
That's a big phone. For the SE, that's going to feel huge. Which, like, more screen is nice, but I think a lot of folks enjoy having a small iPhone.
I 100% agree. I'm a big fan. I'm not for myself, but I'm a big fan of the idea that small phones that are good phones should exist. Like, even the Pixel A series has gotten bigger, and I'm like, where do we stop? Like Galaxy S25 feels big even now, right?
Yes.
And I'm like iPhone Mini, man. I want another iPhone Mini.
It's perfect. My partner has a Mini, and every time I'm handed it, like, when we're watching TikToks together, we use my phone, which is my daily driver is an iPhone 16 Pro. So not the Max, but still a bigger phone. So we watch content on that phone. I love to watch content on the S25 Ultra. Amazing screen to watch content on. Oh, yeah. But for a phone to carry around in your pocket all day to like use maps with, listen to music with, like the Mini is the perfect size.
I agree. So that's a bummer. But the SE, the problem with the SE is if you put it side by side, like my spouse has an SE and the SE, whatever, the last one, the 5G one. If you put it side by side with like my iPhone 16 Pro, it's only 5 millimeters more around, right? But the screen is a postage stamp because it's 4.7. So what I would have loved to see them do is keep the chassis of the SE, like in terms of the size, the surface area of it, not the thickness. They would have gone to slab sides and the usual stuff. But keep that and fill that with an OLED, right?
Love.
That would have, it would have been not as small as a Mini for sure, but at least you get some real estate in exchange for that, and you keep the chassis familiar with the SE users. But I don't think they're aiming to do a phone for the SE users here. Because
they're just phasing them out.
The price point and the size, as you said, doesn't speak to that.
Yeah, 100%. So wait, talk to me about the modem.
Okay, so I'm excited about the modem because I'm a nerd and I'm an engineer. And I'm like, okay, here's the thing. Hear me out, folks. A lot of people are laughing at Apple right now about this modem. And I think they shouldn't, because here's the thing. Nokia and BlackBerry were laughing at the iPhone back in the day. And they got it handed to them, right? They learned really quickly that was a not so smart idea. And I think Apple, if you look historically, like we all love A chips and M chips, right? That they make. Like personally, I've been kind of like the big, evangelist for ARM on laptops forever. And of course, when Apple finally did it, they nailed it with the M1 MacBook Air. And now we've have a whole bunch of M chips on all kinds of Apple devices, and it's amazing. And when Qualcomm first did ARM, for Windows, it was not good. And now they've caught up. They've caught up. It's there. Yes. But here's the thing. They are now Qualcomm, the master of making chips for mobile devices, is catching up with Apple on mobile computing, on laptop chips. So, watch out when you say, look at this. It doesn't have millimeter wave. What is Apple doing? Because nobody but Qualcomm and MediaTek and maybe Samsung and, of course, Huawei back in China have developed over decades now 5G radios. And Apple comes along, buys a little bit of Intel's business, making really crappy radios, to be honest, and finally comes up a few years later emerges out of the pool with a chip that, we'll see how it performs, but that's a big deal. You cannot negate that. I think that a lot of us give Apple's props, kind of like because, everybody seems to be Apple props, but I'm not that person. You guys all know me. I'm very critical of Apple, but I have to say the C1 has gotten me very intrigued, because if it does perform as well in terms of power efficiency as they're talking about, because it's supposed to be the most power efficient 5G modem right now, I'm going to be very excited about that, because they're going to iterate on this super fast. We're going to see a C2 and a C3 like they did with the AirPod chip. The AirPods still give you the best connectivity experience of any earbuds. They're not my go-to personally for sound quality and stuff, but I have to admit, like, you can switch between devices. Everything just works. The W1, whatever it's called, the W5, wherever they're at now for the chipset for the AirPods. I think this is kind of why I'm excited about the C1 modem, because I think that it's nice to have that vertical integration. Apple is so good at that. Once they can vertically integrate their own chipset for, cellular into a phone, we're going to start seeing that maybe in MacBooks now. I think the reason we haven't seen any iPads have had 5G, but MacBooks in particular without 5G is because Apple was like, we want this to be highly integrated. And, eventually it'll be built right into the M and the A chips. Right? They won't be a separate chip. Right now, they also have a separate chip for Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. I presume it's Broadcom, but don't quote me on that, because I have no data to back that up. Until iFixit takes it apart, we won't know. Thanks, iFixit. We love you. But I think that's kind of what I'm excited about on this one. I think that it's we shouldn't make fun of Apple for making a 5G chip that lacks millimeter wave. Most Chinese phones sold in the US don't have millimeter wave. OnePlus 13, fantastic phone, no millimeter wave. And nobody cares, because unless you're in Verizon in a stadium, you won't care.
Right.
So yeah. So that's my take.
Not a lot of use case.
I'm excited about that. Moving on, Oppo Find N5. I have it here. It is quite the beast. I've got it in a case right now. I should take it out of the case and show everyone. Look at how thin this thing is. It is thin. Actually, here, USB port. It is.
Is that with the case on? Yeah.
Yeah. So let me take the case off.
Yeah, take the case off.
Yeah. Hang on. All right. Without the case on.
Are you a case? You leave cases on all your devices?
I just don't want to break it until I take photos.
Yeah.
It's hard to tell, but it's really thin. You
thin.
See that USB-C port?
That's very thin.
That's very thin. Anyway, and so you fold it, and when it's folded, it's the same thickness as an iPhone 16 Pro Max or a Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra. It's actually about a millimeter thicker, but you can't really tell. I guess I got portrait on. That's what's messing with it. But this phone's unbelievable. It's like you hold this thing in your hand, and you're like, I am holding the future. And I haven't felt like that about a folding phone before. Like, I shouldn't say
ever?
That. The Magic V3 from Honor was close, because it's almost as thin. It's like this is only like a difference of like a point something millimeter between that and the Honor. But it adds up, because when you close it, the Honor is, I think, more than 9, and this is less than 9. Yeah. So this is like, And then there's almost no crease. Let me turn it off so you can see, like, what crease?
Oh, wow.
Right?
Yeah.
And I've had it closed
usually
in my
it's
pocket
clear as day
for almost a week. So it's definitely, And then the camera system is, basically the same as OnePlus 13-ish, roughly. But it has an 8 megapixel ultra wide. That's where they cheaped out. And it's like the generic ultra wide that they put on almost every BBK group phone that's like a mid-range or a cheap phone. And it's not great. Even with their image processing, it's a little crunchy. But I'm bummed, but ultra wides are bumming me this week, Becca. Overall.
Yeah, but this is the thing. It's always going to be the ultra wide that's going to be the last to be innovated. It's going to be people don't care about the ultra wide as much as we do. That's just the
but
truth.
Like I'm particularly bummed because the iPhone doesn't have one. The 16e, and this has they've cheaped out. They had an opportunity on the original, the OnePlus Open, right? The N3. They had a decent ultra wide, and now we have like this potato ultra wide. It's not if you're buying this phone, you probably won't be upset most of the time, but Becca and I will be pissed every time we use this phone.
Yeah, we will, but I think folks who use this are not. They're not after the camera.
No, I know.
That's for sure.
This thing is unbelievable. I've got it, and it works great in the States. I've got it on Tmall right now.
Nice.
Related to that, I have to say this happened right after I recorded on Wednesday, 10 days ago. I recorded a little early last week because I was in Germany on a business trip, and my colleague was in UK, so it was convenient. But right after we recorded, OnePlus did that announcement saying we're not doing the Open 2. And I was like, oh, how do you feel about it? Have you played with the Open? Are you playing with any folding phones?
No, and this is like a funny blind spot for me. I have never daily drove a folding phone. I've used a bunch of them.
Do you want to?
And this is what I come to every time. Because if I wanted to, I would have by now.
Right.
Like plain and simple. But in my heart of hearts, I'm like, yeah, of course I want to because I love tech. But I haven't. So I guess I don't. The one that appeals to me most is the Pixel Fold 2. It's I love the size of the front screen.
Mm-hmm.
I think often folding phones are too tall, and I love that that's a little wider. I don't know what the dimensions, how it shapes up to the Oppo Find N5.
So just I have it. It's unfortunately right behind me, but it's about the same size. This is actually the front. So the front screen on this is 6.6 inches.
Yep.
Let me actually unlock it so you guys can see it. It's 6.6 inches, so a tiny little bit bigger than the 6.3 or 6.4 on the Pixel, but it's the same form factor. It's 20 by 9 aspect ratio. It's not some weird tall, like everything. I'm pretty big hands, but everything is reachable. Like it's manageable. Now the inside, because there's a bit more real estate on the outside, the inside is 8 inches. This is bigger in surface area than an iPad mini.
Yeah, right.
But it's not the right aspect ratio. So if you're using an iPad mini, you are actually enjoying landscape video. With this, you're not going to get very big landscape video.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So I have the desire to drive one of these. But truthfully, the phone I'm most excited for this year is the Light Phone 3. I cannot wait. I pre-ordered. I am every day I am checking their socials.
Wow.
Like that's something I'm excited for. Like what is going to actually put me more into the real world? What's going to take me outside of technology yet not take me away from technology?
Interesting.
And that's what I'm most excited for. Yeah.
I think it's going to be cool. I am excited about that phone too, actually. Not for the same reason as you, just because I really feel that there's a need for a phone like that. And a lot of these attempts to making phones to disconnect have been kind of janky in my opinion. And you're right.
Kinda.
Yeah. Well, I'm being generous. They're being trash. So I'm kind of looking at it now as going these guys might nail it. And in that sense, I'm pretty excited about it.
They're taking their time. It was supposed to launch in January. It got pushed to February. It got pushed to March, which good. Take the time, make it right. To don't mess this up.
I agree. So, the thing that's interesting here, for me, the way I started with folding phones was the flip phones. Like the fold book style, initially, I was just like, no, absolutely not. I don't see the point of that. I don't need more screen estate. I multitask really well with just a normal 20 by 9 display. I don't need to put things side by side. That's how I started. And so the flip was like, oh, great. It's smaller in your pocket. Awesome. Yep. And so I got into that. And then my spouse saw it. And because we live in 2 countries and 2 cities, we have 2 SIM cards on 2 networks, and they have their US SIM on the iPhone. They're like, ooh, I want that. I'm like, it's Android. You know that, right? And they're like, oh, yeah. I'm like, well, you want to try it? So I got them a Z Flip 3, I think it was back then.
Okay.
And then they loved it. I mean, they didn't love Android or Samsung software, but they loved the flippiness and having the ability to open it up and play games on a bigger screen, but still not take up too much space in their pockets. So now they have a Razr Plus, and they still love it. They still don't like Android.
What do they think about Motorola's UI?
Better, definitely better.
Oh, really?
They're happier with it, but they're not. They just don't. They say they can't wrap their head around Android. They still don't understand notifications. If that's the big one for them. It's I
don't understand notifications on iOS. I mean,
that's exactly right. I'm the same way as you. But you came from Android, right? Didn't you have a Samsung Galaxy S10e for a long time?
The S10. It was my favorite phone. Oh my gosh, I still have it in my drawer in my office. But
now you're on iPhone.
Yes, well, sort of. So I have my iPhone 16 Pro, which is mostly my main device. But I've been carrying the S25 Ultra everywhere with me. I love this phone. I just wish it
good,
wasn't so
right?
damn big. It's
so
amazing.
big.
The screen. It's all about the screen. Like, it is a screen that I like to stare at. I don't like to stare at my iPhone. I hate the iPhone notifications.
So
I
the
actually really
coding
like
that's
Android
on the
notifications.
Samsung is on the main screen of the Oppo. You see it?
Ah,
It's a little more reflective than the Samsung, but not much.
yeah. Very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And no,
I
this
love it.
thing,
I love the screen.
this phone. So how did I get into folding phones like these, like the book style? Well, OnePlus Open. The Samsung never did for me because it's too too narrow, too
Way
thick,
too narrow.
too janky, generally speaking. And still, they haven't really evolved. I mean, it's the Chinese that really made the book style foldable a thing for me. And the OnePlus Open was the gateway drug. I carried a Pixel, which is still my main phone, like a big Pro.
Oh, cool.
Alongside the Open as like if I wanted to be productive on a plane or something, write a story even, I did it on my folding phone. Like if I didn't have room to pull out a laptop on economy or something, I would just pull out my folding phone.
See, you're lucky. As a video editor, there's just like no way that screen is ever going to be big enough. Like I literally carry around the largest laptop ever because I need the screen.
Yeah, no, I get it.
What interests me the most about the Find N5 is the Mac OS ability to integrate with it. That's huge. I feel like that's not being talked about enough. But
no, it's not. But the thing you have to understand is that is pretty much table stakes on Chinese phones. Like Huawei has an entire ecosystem of like this continuity thing you see on iOS and Apple's ecosystem and the Mac and stuff is something that the Chinese manufacturers within their ecosystem, Xiaomi, Huawei, BBK Group have. But they're smart this time around. They're like,
with Mac OS?
No, that's like my point. It's like they're smart this time around because BBK Group, Oppo said, let's do something with iOS or Mac OS, right? Not just iOS, because it does have also the ability to send, and this is something that came with the Find X8 series, but the ability to airdrop. But it's not AirDrop. They're not actually using the AirDrop protocol. You have to install an app on the iPhone to make it work. So, but you also have to install an app on your Mac to make this integration work. But it does work really well. And just to be aware, I think a lot of people from a nerdy technical level here, you can, with any Mac, remote control it to that extent from any device. It just takes config and setup to do that.
Sure.
VNC is built into the Mac because it's Unix. The problem is that it's not secure necessarily. And the other problem you have is how do you connect unless you know the IP address and stuff? So this little app that they made basically just kind of like makes that seamless. It adds that Apple-ness to it, right? That you have. And I think I'm actually really bummed that Apple got rid of Back to My Mac. Remember that? Like the ability to log in from one Mac to another Mac remotely and operate it fully. Like that was gold. And it was secure. And I don't know why they got rid of it. I guess they just want you to buy more Macs. Because you could be on a Windows PC at your friend's place and just connect to your Mac and just drive it with a mouse and keyboard, low latency.
Yeah, I just think they were closing the gates on their garden. That's all that
100%, 100%.
Yeah.
So this thing, and for those of you who are listening and don't like, what are you talking about? I've got a video version of this podcast on my Patreon. So join my Patreon, patreon.com/TNKGRL to get the video version. And you'll see Becca and me make silly faces and look at cool phones together. This thing is amazing. Like it's also a good phone. It's like if you like OnePlus, it's the same software experience. If you like, and if you're not used to OnePlus, but you like Oppo, same software experience. It's solid. And the cameras are solid. This is Hasselblad with all the good stuff. The main and the tele are 50 megapixel. It's got a periscope telephoto. It does 6 times crop, 2x crop zoom, no problem. It has that crazy AI zoom that we had on the Find X and you see on the OnePlus 13, which can be a little janky sometimes, but in some situations actually works really well. You can turn it off. It's a really solid, and of course Snapdragon 8 Elite, you get all the goodness, right? So
yeah,
I dig it. I'm very excited about it. And no OnePlus Open 2. I think this is terrible. It's like, why?
Well, after you just told me your history of folding phones, I see why you're upset.
Well, so here's the thing you should know. Also a big fan of the Pixel a 9 Pro Fold. I tried to make that my daily driver. I think I'm going to switch to a 9 Pro XL and put this Find in my pocket. So I'm going to do the dual thing I was doing. The reason for that is you were talking about it, but the cameras, every time I go to use the camera, I'm as a longtime Pixel user, every time I go to use the cameras on the Fold, I don't know if the results are worse because I don't think they are necessarily much worse, but I have this little evil voice, like the little devil comes out of my head and sits right there and goes, hey, you know those cameras aren't as good as the 9 Pro XL, right? And I'm like, damn it.
Yeah, but back to what we were talking about. These are folding phones. These aren't these are not top specs.
I know, but the thing is, the original N3 version of this Oppo did not have any compromises on the camera. I had a 64 megapixel telephoto, a 48 megapixel
main,
ultra wide, and a 50 megapixel main. The latest Mate X, not the XT, but the latest Mate regular folding book style from Huawei has no compromises on the camera. Xiaomi's folding phone in China has no compromises on the camera. There are a few manufacturers out there who are not compromising. And this is surprising that they went with an 8 megapixel ultra wide because their track record was going to show that they were going to go all out. So I feel like I need to switch back to 9 Pro XL and keep this in my pocket now. I don't know what I'm going to do. It's hard. Becca,
the world is your oyster. You could change every day if you wanted.
Yeah, I know.
Just keep shuffling.
Oh, yeah. The problem is then you have to switch SIMs. I mean, that's easy because I use physical SIMs, but it's harder because of I only keep certain apps like banking apps and stuff on my main phone, and I don't want to transfer that to review units every time. Not because of security, just the work. It's a lot of apps to move around.
Yes,
I review cars too, so I've got a lot of EVs in my life, and all the charging network apps, logging in, like it's literally it's like a constellation of apps, like 12 apps or something if I want to have charging support on my phone. It's ridiculous.
Horrible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So things like that are preventing me from I like to have a daily driver that's kind of like a main phone for a few months at a time.
Yep.
Yeah, so I'm wearing a watch that if you keen listeners and watchers noticed last week's podcast, I actually kind of broke the embargo by wearing that on the show, but it was only very briefly shown. This watch is the OnePlus Watch 3. My review is up on Hot Hardware. I encourage you to read it. The gist quickly here is that this watch is one of the best Wear OS watches you can get. So if you are an Android user and you want a Wear OS watch, you have choices between Samsung's ecosystem, Pixel watch, and this. That's basically it. All the old Diesel, all these other Wear OS watches are gone now, so you don't really have any more choice. The nice thing about this watch is that it is very battery efficient. I'm getting about 4 days with the always on display, which is insane.
Oh, that's really good.
Yeah. And then I don't do a lot of workouts and stuff and GPS and stuff. So your mileage may vary. They said they would last 5 days without the always on. So I'm close to their claim, but I've got always on. So it's good. It looks stylish.
What sizes does it come in?
Only one. This is 46 millimeters, 47. So it's pretty big.
Yeah,
I got
big
big wrists.
One.
So
lucky you.
Yeah, it works. This watch is great. I still think Pixel Watch, a large one, is better for me. I think if you want like an Apple Watch experience that's really like a smartwatch experience, I think Pixel wins. I think that if you want something like the Watch Ultra from Apple, I think the Samsung Watch Ultra is the one to get. Like you want super rugged, super outdoorsy watch. If you want something that's really elegant and does everything well, this is kind of like the middle ground. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's got,
and looks most like a watch.
It looks normal.
Classic.
But it's big.
Traditional watch.
Right? Whereas if you want a small size watch, you're really stuck with either Galaxy Watch 7 small size or the Pixel Watch 3 small size. This does not apply if you have small wrists or you don't want a big watch.
But the thing to talk about with this watch is, I think I saw that Marquez pointed this out, but on the back they spelled made in China
It
wrong.
is on mine spelled incorrectly. It is.
That's crazy to me.
They
switched the E and the A.
Yeah, Meta in China.
M-E-D-A.
It's not the first time. This has happened on other Chinese devices before.
Oh, man.
They rushed that, didn't they? But yeah, read my review. It's a great watch. The Watch 2 was already a great watch. They fixed everything we didn't like about the Watch 2. They added the crown actually does work and rotates properly and lets you scroll through the menus. I don't know if I can do it here. Let's see. There we go.
Yeah. So nice.
A nice inertia on it. It feels really nice. Has a little tap.
I just love the look of this watch. I really like the Pixel Watch is like great, but I'm not into like the kind of bulbous
change the band
look
though.
of it.
This is a 22 millimeter band, the standard band. That band just, it's not that great.
Yeah.
So check it out. Let's see what else we got here. Oh, so let's talk about this because you're like the expert. So here's you made a video a month ago or so about the DJI Osmo 3, and I loved the way you approached it. It's like this thing is everywhere. Have you noticed? And yes, we have. And so many of my colleagues use it instead of their iPhone now. And I'm thinking of following suit, but I'm conflicted because it's expensive. I'm like, I have a perfectly good iPhone 16 that I bought primarily to do video, and because it's in my bag, not on my pocket. Most of the time it's around so I can use it for content. And I pull it out when I need to, but
this is a hell of a lot cheaper than an iPhone.
Well, yeah, but if I have an iPhone already, right? And a lot of creators do, but also then I have to plug in my lav mic, right? Receiver. And then I have to put it on a MagSafe tripod. And then I don't get the stabilization that the Osmo provides because it's got a real gimbal. And then I don't have a 1-inch sensor because it has a 1-inch sensor, right?
So I don't think it's quite 1 inch.
No, it's not quite 1 inch, but it's better. It's a better sensor, right? Ooh, that's time Googling.
Yes. It is better. It is technically a 1 inch. That's great. Yes. Yeah, better sensor. But I think above all else, and what I think a lot of folks don't mention, is that it doesn't look like a camera and it doesn't look like a phone. And so it really allows you to be not more anonymous because you want people to know that you're recording them, but less intimidating.
Right.
So last week, I've been doing a lot of interviews where I just go like hang out with somebody and I let them get into their workflow. This person was doing product photography, and he was really into his workflow. And I was just kind of running around him with my little pocket cam, and I was asking him questions. And number one, it was very easy to move around him. But two, I could feel that he felt like it was just him and I in a room and that there wasn't a camera between us. And that's the beauty of it for me, is that it's very non-intrusive, yet it gets great results, super steady, and the mics on it are actually quite
that's
good.
the thing. So the reason I'm looking at the price is because I'm not just buying. I want to buy with two wireless mics because it makes sense because the receiver is built in. I got the creator pack basically plus an extra mic is what I want to do, so I get two mics that way. It starts to be like $900 or something, and I'm like, like it's worth it. Like I understand from a result, but I'm like, do I want to spend that money when I have a perfectly good iPhone with already a receiver with two mics, et cetera, et cetera? But that's just my problem. So,
well, if I were you, like in the Creator Edition, like what I would do is I'd buy refurbished everything or used everything. Yeah. Because just number one, just start there. You're going to knock off like $50 to $100. Number two, I would buy just the Osmo Pocket 3, and then I would buy the DJI Mic Mini along with it.
Okay.
That's what I would do, because the Mic Mini I think is like $140. It's in that ballpark. I'm not sure on the exact price. The Osmo Pocket 3 refurbished, let's see.
So the Mic Mini are you talking about the two mics and the receiver, or are you talking about just an extra mic?
Two mics and a receiver, and they'll both pair on their own.
They'll both pair on their own directly to the camera. You don't need the creator pack. I thought the creator pack included some sort of attachment that let the thing receive the mics, but
no,
it's built into the camera.
Yes, the Creator Edition comes with like an extra battery pack, which you could just plug into an external battery pack, which I'm sure you already own.
I have many.
And then it comes with like a tripod, like a little tripod accessory, which you can just put a plate on it and put it on a tripod that you own. And then it comes with a wide angle lens, which is cool, but I've already lost mine.
Yeah, everybody seems to lose theirs.
It's great. It's just I lost it.
I found one. Maybe it's yours. I didn't pick it up. I just brought it back to wherever it was. I said, somebody lost this, lost and found.
Well, if you find one, let me know. But yeah, you can buy like from DJI a refurbished, just the Pocket 3 for $495. I think I'm seeing that like you can get one on eBay for $400 if you trust eBay.
I feel terrible because I'm just asking you for buying advice right now. The point I'm trying to get to though with this whole questioning is that I want people to watch your video because your video was very informative. And I think the point you're just making about seeing visiting this product photographer and having the camera not get in your way is selling me on this big time, because that's the problem I run into. I do a lot of first person view shooting when I do unboxing videos for my channel. And right now I have to set up the phone kind of to the right of me, like right here kind of thing. And it works. It's great, but it's cumbersome and it's a setup. It's not as spontaneous. And I feel like, remember how as creatives we get over the hurdle of getting started? So now I'm like getting over the hurdle of setting up to get started, because I don't have a permanent studio set up because I travel so much and I live in 2 places. So maybe I'll get it.
What I do for the POV view is I actually wear a GoPro chest mount, and then I just mount the Osmo to that, like right kind of in front of my mouth. And then sometimes that's when the wide angle lens would have come in handy if I knew where it was. And that's really nice for the POV shots. The other thing that I don't so much mention in my video is how durable this camera is, and like knock on wood, but I'm really rough. Like I just throw this thing into my pocket all the time, my backpack pocket, my normal pocket, and like knock on wood again, it's been fine, which is crazy. And it has drop protection. So like as soon as it feels that it's dropping, it locks the gimbal, and I've dropped it many times at this point. So it's quite durable.
Wow. Well, stay tuned, folks. I'll let you know what I end up doing. But more importantly, go watch Becca's video about the Osmo 3. DJI is really onto something with this camera, I think.
They are.
Some news items, rapid firing through them, because unfortunately Rebecca has limited time with us today.
I do.
Nothing Phone 3A is coming. We know this on March 4th, but they finally kind of published a teaser photo of what the Pro would look like. And yeah, we're getting 3 cameras on this. We're getting a 3x 50 megapixel periscope telephoto on this phone, and I'm super stoked by that. It looks like the only difference between the 3A and the 3A Pro is that extra camera. And just like this lovely Find N5, they're doing an 8 megapixel ultra wide. Wah, wah, wah.
Yeah.
But that's already the case on the 2A, and this is a mid-range phone with probably a Snapdragon 7 series of some kind. Mm-hmm. So I'm not going to be too upset about that. Also, pricing will dictate how we feel about it, of course. But I love nothing. I love what they're doing. I love their software. I love the design. I don't care about the glyphs. I think it's just cool. If you like it, you like it. But to me, it's the software and the design and the fact that cameras have always been a little iffy for them. So I'm hoping that this is, it's interesting because, and I'd like to know how you feel about this, because Carl came from the Oppo universe, OnePlus, and he founded Nothing. And there's so many similarities between Nothing phones and Oppo OnePlus phones. And I mean, of course there is, because, same philosophy, right? But I also think that it's interesting because they probably have the same relationships with the manufacturers and the factories. And so I'm wondering how much parts commonality is happening between the Nothing universe and the BBK Group universe, because economies of scales really help. And then the other thing I'm wondering about is same on the software side, but I'm also wondering about the camera side. So perhaps these cameras are going to kick ass because Carl has somehow managed to license or work with Oppo to get their imaging pipeline over. Assuming there is some commonality in the hardware, that would make sense. And why not, right? Because a lot of the features they're talking about in their video that they published to tease the phone, specifically about photography, sound like, AI zoom, right? 3x periscope telephoto, 50 megapixel. It sounds like, this smells and this feels like a lot of BBK groupness to me. But that's just me being, a tech nerd that keeps track of what parts are shared between phone manufacturers. We'll see.
Yeah, I think what for me when I think of Nothing, they worked so hard at this. So I'm it's a little bit of like drinking the Kool-Aid, but they've created like a culture around their phones. Right. It's hard to deny that. They sell like weird lab coats and hats, and they, do drops, and they have, this YouTube channel, and Carl's very much like this cool kind of CEO guy.
Yeah.
But it's working in my eyes.
Yeah.
It's
absolutely.
working. When I use their product, I feel a part, when I open this case, I feel like a part of that culture, and the design language is so unique and throughout. that's what, nothing is about for me.
Well,
And yeah, exactly. We're talking about the Nothing Open earbuds.
do you have these
Ear
as well?
Open. I don't. I almost bought those, but I didn't. I don't need them. But they're so beautiful.
I just showed the Nothing Ear A in yellow, which are
The
my
yellow.
favorite. They're great.
The yellow is the one. It's the one.
It's the
Little
yellow.
submarines.
Yeah, of course.
But yeah, but I think for me it's like about this like culture thing, right? And so as long as they can keep making devices that feel like there's some sort of culture behind them, I think it will do well. Proof will be in the pudding on if the device actually works well. But I think for a lot of their fan base, that's not what matters.
Yeah, no, you're right. And I also expect it to be solid. Like, I think this is going to be a
Yeah.
great phone. And I think that what I'm hoping, like this whole little brain fart earlier about are they sharing technology with BBK in any way because of the relationship they've had in the past, is more about, can we inherit some of that Oppo camera goodness? I'm
Yeah.
hoping we can, because that's the only thing right now stopping me from really being 100% gung-ho with Nothing phones. At least their audio stuff
Yeah.
is tops, and some of my favorite sounding earbuds are the Nothing buds.
For me, their devices still in hand they still feel like almost like dated. I don't know, like I'm really into like the hard edges, and their phones have like a slight, like, not curve isn't the right word, but kind of like a curve to the back. And
Yeah, it's a bit of a retro vibe. And I think that's kind of the teenage engineering kind of influence,
yeah, but I just wish that they would make it nice and square.
Kind of like
love squares.
that crazy pocket recorder that teenage engineer makes. Have you?
Oh my God, love.
That thing. One
Love.
day, I have no need for this whatsoever. But as an audio nerd, I want it
Yeah.
so bad. Do you have one?
No, I have this
Oh,
old like
oh my
Sony
God.
recorder, but it's an actual retro. It's an M430
Micro cassette recorder. Yeah,
Yeah.
cool.
And it was my mom's, and I still have some of her tapes of like her at work being like, I need to do this, 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 and this, which I was going to tie into. I recently reviewed the BAI wearable device that, like,
Yes, I saw that
transcribes
video.
everything you say.
Freaking amazing! Like, what
Yeah.
a ballsy thing for you to do, to get everything, all your friends in there and stuff. Like, wow.
Yeah, I recorded myself for 30 days. I let it record everything I said for the most part. There were certainly times where I muted it just because I don't, it's hard to have a conversation when AI is listening, especially if it's something that's a little more personal. But I was gonna relate it to this Sony micro cassette recorder because my mom used to use this at work to record voice
Right.
notes for herself.
Yeah.
And I didn't, but I really would like to do something about it because it has like this beautiful crispiness to the sound.
Yeah, for
Oh
sure.
God! And
It's
look, it's
kind of
just
like
so
when
cute.
you did the video of the iPod Nano
iPod.
camera.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot like that. I just have to get. The idea that I have right now is I want to use it. I want to start recording my life with it. Like, can you record your life just with audio? How much of like the essence of life can just voice capture?
I think how there was a resurgence of Super 8 and even the Pixel Cam that Fisher Price made, whatever it was called.
I don't know about that.
Okay,
Hold
Fisher
on.
Price in the 80s made a camera that was monochrome video camera recording onto cassette tapes, not VHS, like audio cassette tapes.
Wait, this
Pixel
looks
Vision
beautiful
or something
too.
like that.
It's PXL 2000.
Yeah, Pixel Vision
maybe?
2000. Anyway,
Pixel Vision. Yes.
so in the same way
my
as we
God.
saw a resurgence of Super 8, and right now there's a big resurgence of using DV camcorders, right, to create
love DVs.
content. And of course, there's a big resurgence of point and shoot cameras from the early 2000s. I'm wondering if the next thing is going to be a big resurgence of people recording their video for their audio for their video creators with microcassette or with dictation machines from 20 years ago, 30 years ago.
Maybe I'll start the trend.
I'm in. You should do it. Be the first.
Yeah, it's awesome.
So the next thing I want to chat with you about, and this is all again, I'll try to put as much camera stuff in here. Xiaomi 15 Ultra is coming February 16th. We know very little about it right now, other than it's an Ultra phone from Xiaomi. I've got the 14 Ultra with the camera kit from last year. Oh my God. So amazing. Have you ever had a chance to use any of these phones?
Not in a while, no. I think I might have one at home, but this is one of those ones that like always slips through the cracks for me. just because their presence in the US is so
well, of
small.
course. What I liked about the 14 Ultra last year was that, okay, so just to give everybody some perspective, for those who've forgotten, quad 50 megapixel camera system, 2 telephotos, 1 periscope, 1 non, but 1-inch main sensor with infinite variable aperture.
Yeah.
Like that was the big deal.
Right.
I mean, we've had variable apertures.
And it has like great depth of field, right?
Yeah. We've had variable aperture on phones before, but sometimes it's only be 2 or 3 or 5 or 8 steps or something. We've had 2 periscopes or 2 telephotos on phones for a while, since in fact the Huawei P40 Pro Plus, I think, was the first one that had that back like in 2020, I think it was. Anyway, the point I'm making is that this had all of that, and more importantly, it had a camera grip as an accessory. Like it was called the camera, whatever, the photography kit. And it's a little 1000 milliamp hour battery inside a grip, and it slides on and locks onto the phone. And then it's connected not by Bluetooth. It's actually supported by firmware in the camera. And you get a zoom toggle, like, that detent that goes back to center. You get a scroll wheel that you can assign all of these, and you get a proper dual detent camera button, and all of it is programmable. You can assign anything you want to anything. And so you have 2 controls for manual, whatever you want, essentially. And then you have a double detent camera button. And there's, I think, a video record button too. And if that comes with a case that it kind of like attaches, like the whole thing kind of like wraps around your phone basically. And that case on the camera lens has a standard filter attachment. So you can put like an ND filter or a polarizer or whatever else you want, and it's freaking fantastic. I did car photography, and having a polarizer makes a huge difference. So I was shooting with this thing on polarizer, doing some like really fun, like manual focus and stuff. Like, it's just great. Now, who's going to carry that around as their main phone when you have the grip on it and everything? I don't know. Like, still don't see like this being a single device. Like, you still probably have an iPhone or a Pixel in your pocket, you know what I'm saying? But it's cool. And of course, instant upload to Instagram, instant upload to, your favorite sharing service for your photography if you're a photographer. So in that sense, I think is really great.
Yeah.
This should be that, but even better. Partnership with Leica here, like before. So I'm looking forward to this phone. I hope to get one. Last year they sent me one. This year I don't know what's happening yet.
Yeah.
Are you gonna try to get one this year and see if maybe it's worth spending time? I know it's hard because you can't really officially get it here, but it should be a global launch this year. Last year was China only. So
interesting. Yeah, I should. This is that thing of like, though, I love phones. But am I a little tired of them? Yeah, I am.
Fair.
And so it's like, when I get something in for review, it's like, okay, for the next like few weeks, this is going to be all I think about and all I do. And so it's like my stamina with phones is only so much. And so it's like, do I want to spend another 2 weeks like with another phone? And we'll see. The battery grip and all of that definitely is like, okay, that's interesting. That's something new.
That's kind of where I'm going with it. Like, I wouldn't review the phone per se. I'd be like, let's treat this as a real camera, like, and go out there and compare and like shoot next to like one of those Sony vlogger cameras that has
like a
that's a point and shoot on
something.
Steroids and has the grip and stuff. Like that would be kind of a fair comparison, 1-inch sensor on each, kind of thing.
Yeah. It does beg the question of like, we have these great cameras on our phones, and yet still, like, I would rather use a camera. And so it's one of those things where it's like real photographers, do they use the camera because the image is good, or it's the experience that's great? And I know for me, like, I don't want to look at a phone when I'm taking photos, like, unless I'm taking photos with my phone. But like I like having a viewfinder. I like buttons and dials. I like, lens barrels in my hands. And so it's these sort of things where it's like, yeah, they're getting a little bit closer with the grip and the ND filters. But at the end of the day, it's not a camera. Right.
Yeah, I get it. I think this goes back to the Osmo. Why not just get an Osmo?
Yeah. Well, if you're doing photos, don't get the Osmo. It's not great.
No, of course. But I'm just saying, like, if you're like, we're talking about videography here. But for this phone, this is really more, for me, the Xiaomi is really more about stills. I didn't use it to do video much. That wasn't the point for me.
Yeah.
Moving on, we have the iPhone 17 Air and 17 Pro designs that have leaked. And oh my God, they're copying Pixel. How do you feel about that really quickly?
Do you think those are real?
I don't know if they keep coming back. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't be surprised if Apple being Apple, does this. Just pulls the carpet right underneath Pixel. Because, it's an easy target. They're just barely scraping by. Let's just take them out.
No, but I look at these renders and they just feel so
fake.
They just don't. Yeah. They don't look anything like Apple design language to me. And I think maybe it's because the camera bump is all black. I think Apple would, put some sort of, if you look at any of their camera bumps, they match it to the back of the device.
They bedazzle it a little bit, yes.
Yeah, so it kind of blends in. And so I just don't see them making a giant black bar across the back of their phone. Like, that just seems completely unreasonable. I could be wrong.
I appreciate you giving us all a reality check. I think you're probably right. This is just all a load of BS at this point.
Well, I think it could be something. Like, I'm sure the shape is maybe right, that the camera bar might be elongated, but there's just no way in hell it's all going to be black on a white phone.
Okay, so that's what you're concerned about, the black. Yeah, I wasn't even caring about that. I was more like the visor thing, especially on the Air, right? Because it really does look like... I
just don't see it.
The only positive, like the reinforces the black for me, is that if you only have one camera, right, from a distance it looks like you might have more than one, right, because it's all black.
Yeah, and maybe because it's so thin, they have to fit some more things up in that bar, but I don't know. It just doesn't feel right to me.
No, you're right, it does feel odd. Couple last things. Huawei, this is a pure PSA. The Huawei Mate XT, the trifold, is now available globally. Holy crap.
That's cool.
And it's almost $3,700.
Let's list everything else we could buy for that much money.
A MacBook Pro and probably a decent Sony Alpha used or refurbished.
Yeah, you could buy very nice versions of both those things. Yeah.
Yep. Oh my.
Yeah, rent for at least a couple months.
Have you touched that thing?
I haven't. Have you?
It is. You feel like you're in a sci-fi movie.
That's cool.
But it's not a freaking prop. It is so, like, you think this, imagine this, Oppo Find N5, but now imagine you could fold it one more time.
That's cool.
What it's thinner actually than this.
Yeah.
It's
so cool.
Absolutely out of control.
But you know what I really was longing for is, do you remember, I think it was like MWC 5 years ago or something, they did like the rollout screen. It was like a scroll.
Oh, yeah. That was Lenovo.
That's what I want. Like, I'm waiting for that bad boy. Like,
so you saw the laptop, right? It's coming out from Lenovo. So that means that they're getting very close. I wouldn't be surprised if Moto does a rollable phone in the next 3 years.
God, so cool.
I'm so there. Oh my God.
Like, talk about sci-fi.
Yeah. All right. The last one is interesting. Yeah. RIP indeed. Humane Pin is gone. They got acquired for like 100-something million by HP. And in typical Humane fashion, since they really did not know how to be humble, and they did not know how to not be arrogant. So that's not too surprising. 10 days notice to their customers that their device will be bricked, that they better back everything up, and that they spend $700 down the drain. Ouch. That is not a good way to do it.
Has it even been a full year? Like, that's just
less than a year. Yeah.
That's really rough. I mean, not to say that anybody was, seriously using this thing. If they were, I feel really bad
Ray
for them.
Wong was. Poor Ray.
Oh my God. Well, Ray.
I love you, Ray.
Yeah, I do too. But that is really rough. I mean, people invested in these things. And you didn't even get a full year?
At $24 a month plus $700.
Yeah. I think the rough part for me, though, is that there were so many employees there who got they were extended jobs at HP, and they're given like raises upwards like 50 to 70% in their salary.
Wow.
And then other people were just told goodbye. I think Casey Newton reported that out, but yeah.
Wow. Yeah, it's tech and it sucks. And this is the part of Silicon Valley that I really hate. Having been in tech for a really long time, having worked as a software engineer in video games in tech for 20 years before I was a journalist, because I'm old and ancient. I'm telling you, this is the part of Silicon Valley that drives me nuts. And it's also the hubris and the the lack of humility and the all arrogance. Like, look, you could have done this thing without being such jerks about it. It always felt so jerky.
Well, they're
to
pretentious.
Me.
They're just very
Thank you.
pretentious.
That's the right word. And I hate to say that because I don't think per se the technology was bad. Like, I think it was interesting, and AI has its place. I use it as a tool. It's not something that I'm not as gung ho as a lot of other people about it, but I do believe it's useful for some stuff. And I just feel like it could have been approached in a much more, pardon the pun, but humane way.
I just feel like they went for like the full swing, and they should have like built up.
Yeah.
Because like it's good to be bold, but they could have been bold in like smaller ways, worked their way up to something big, and instead it feels like they just wasted a lot of people's money and time.
I agree 100%.
So.
Well, let's wrap up. Do you want to tell folks where they can find you on the internet, your social media handles, your your YouTube channel, all the goodness you're doing out there? It's great.
Yeah, so my home base is YouTube, youtube.com/Becca Farsacci. But if you just search Becca Tech on YouTube, I'm the first thing that comes up. You can find me on Instagram under the same handle, Becca.Farsacci. And I have a Patreon. Starts at $2.50 a month. Do weekly newsletter, exclusive content, and all of my videos are there ad-free with a little commentary on how they were made. So hope to see you there. Yeah, that's it for me.
See, that's amazing. You should absolutely join the Patreon. You should absolutely subscribe to the YouTube channel and watch all the stuff on Instagram because Becca's awesome. I'm really excited that you left The Verge and you're doing your own thing, to be honest with you. As somebody who's worked on my own for over 10 years now, it's hard, but it's freaking awesome, right? And and you're doing it way earlier than I did, so you're gonna just kick ass. It's gonna be great.
Yeah, we'll see. Slow and steady.
And folks, you can find me at Tankgirl, TNKGRL, on all the social. That's Tankgirl, like the comic book character. Just drop the vowels and you'll have my handle. I'm on all the socials. I'm still on Twitter, for better or for worse, but I'm also on Blue Sky, on Instagram, on Threads, on Facebook, on LinkedIn. So please find me there and add me and discuss this with me and Becca if you want on social. And that way, questions, comments about the podcast, I'd appreciate it. If you want to subscribe to the podcast because it's your first time here, please consider doing that. We're on all the major platforms. mobiletechpodcast.com is where the podcast lives, and you can find an RSS feed there as well. There's a YouTube channel, youtube.com/mobiletechpodcast, if you want to watch some unboxing videos and occasionally hands-on videos that I make on that channel. Check it out. And then finally, there's my Patreon. So if you want to support me, patreon.com/Tankgirl, that's patreon.com/TNKGRL. You get a video version of this podcast a day in advance every week for $5 a month. That's one of the tiers. There's other options as well. But if you want to help me out, consider doing that. Again, this is patreon.com/Tankgirl. That's patreon.com/TNKGRL. And I want to thank our sponsor, Mint Mobile. I review a lot of phones, so I'm constantly juggling multiple devices. While that's fun, it also means I'm spending a lot of money for wireless service on multiple SIMs. Thankfully, there's Mint Mobile, and that's who I'm teaming up with for today's podcast. If you want to save money on your wireless service, switch to Mint Mobile. You've probably seen the Mint Mobile ads featuring Ryan Reynolds, but let me quickly tell you how fantastic their service is, especially for tech-savvy early adopters like us. Mint Mobile offers premium wireless for as low as $15 a month, and you don't have to sacrifice any coverage, speed, or data. They're built on the nation's largest 5G network. They keep costs low because they sell direct to you online. They cut out the retail stores and salespeople. Why should you pay more than you have to for access to the same network? In my experience testing phones, Mint Mobile delivers the same data speeds and call quality as the big three for a fraction of the cost. Switching to Mint is super easy. Thanks to their eSIMs, you can sign up and activate immediately right on your phone from the comfort of your home. No more standing around waiting in line at a big wireless store. You can keep your current devices and phone number and easily switch services. And if your phone isn't eSIM compatible, Mint will ship you a new SIM card free of charge. The whole process only takes 15 minutes, and if you get stuck, Mint has a great customer service team to get you through it. All Mint Mobile plans include unlimited nationwide talk and text, plus lightning-fast 5G and free mobile hotspot. Mint will show you how much data you use each month and recommend plans that save you money. Mint also offers a modern family plan that lets you set up a super affordable family plan with as little as 2 lines. Use my link, mintmobile.com/mobiletech, to get premium wireless starting at $15 a month. Stop paying more than you need on your wireless bill and start saving big with Mint Mobile. And I want to thank you, Becca, for being on the show. Thanks so much. It's so great that you could make it. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for asking.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We'll have you on again at some point in the future. And folks, we'll have another show next week, so stay tuned for that. Until then, cheers, everybody.
Cheers.
This has been the Mobile Tech Podcast with Tank Girl, proudly presented by worldpodcasts.com. You can visit us online at mobiletechpodcast.com.